We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on a visit to United Kingdom says India has leadership, vision and good governance. 5 US Special Operation troops killed when their helicopter crashes into Mediterranean Sea during a training mission. Stage is set in San Francisco for the EPEC summit that President Joe Biden will host this week. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal to take part in this event. 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show, titled The Future of the Aerospace Industry, set to take place today. Indian Air Force contingent consisting of light combat aircraft Tejas and advanced light helicopter Dhruv to take part in this air show. India's middle order thrilled spectators at Bengaluru against the Netherlands. Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul hit centuries. Moving on, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said that India is the fastest growing large economy today, noting that there is leadership, vision and good governance. Jaishankar said this during an interaction with Indian community in London. The minister also praised the contributions of the community in raising India's profile around the world. The minister, who is on a 5-day visit to the UK, celebrated Diwali by offering prayers at the Babs Shri Swaminarayan Mandir in London on Sunday.
So, I want to show you things are going very well at home. You can see that in the manner in which we had a very, very successful G20 presidency in very difficult circumstances. The world did not believe that we could get everybody together. And it took a Prime Minister like Narendra Modi to do that. Similarly, we have come through a very difficult period that the entire world has on COVID. But India is today the fastest growing large economy, and there is a very good reason. It is growing because today there is leadership, there is vision, there is good governance.
Well, during his visit to the UK, Dr. S. Jaishankar met Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in London on Sunday and conveyed the best wishes of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Diwali. Jaishankar is in the United Kingdom on an official trip to review various aspects of bilateral ties and to hold meetings with his counterpart, UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, and several other dignitaries. And for more, DD India's correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us. Well, Akshay, External Affairs Minister is expected to attend an event at Lord's Cricket Ground and address a Diwali reception organised by the High Commission of India in London today. Can you tell us about his programme?
Well, in these 5 days, what we can expect is for the External Affairs Minister to hold a range of programs. He will be meeting business leaders, he will be meeting his counterpart. He has already met the Prime Minister of UK, Rishi Sunak. And as far as this visit is concerned, people-to-people ties are in the center of this particular visit. What we are looking at right now is possibility of improvement of trade between UK and India. Both of these countries are each other's biggest, some of the biggest trade partners. And we have been seeing that both India and UK have been trying to talk about, or rather move forward in the direction of a free trade agreement, which is going to give India a huge market, which is also going to give UK one of the biggest markets in the world. And the program that we are expecting the External Affairs Minister to attend is going to be themed after how 1 billion people see the world. So this is in fact the idea, this is rather the importance that the European economies are giving, especially the UK, that after Brexit is looking at newer avenues as far as its trade partners are concerned. And this also gives both the countries huge opportunities, not just in the area of trade, but also in bilateral relationships, in trade agreements, in defense agreements, and other cooperation that both of these countries can foster as far as this visit is concerned. Back to you.
Yeah, also, Akshay, it is expected that preparations for Rishi Sunak's possible visit to India in the next few months will also figure in the talks. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yes, what we are expecting right now is during the visit of External Affairs Minister to the UK, there will be talks taking place. As you have rightly mentioned, that it is expected as of now, no final date or venue or a program has been scheduled, and this is the visit to in fact discuss further about this particular visit that is expected right now. We'll get to probably hear after the visit of the External Affairs Minister is concluded that whether an official announcement will be made about the visit from Rishi Sunak to India, who in fact is trying to build closer ties between UK and India, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been doing as well for the past several years. So it remains to be seen that what exactly is going to be the outcome of this visit. But as of now, the visit after yesterday will be kickstarting as far as the official agreements, official meetings are concerned from today.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for that update. And moving on, 5 US Special Operation troops were killed when their helicopter crashed into the Mediterranean Sea during a training mission. Search and rescue operations were launched immediately following the crash, and an investigation into its cause is underway. The troops aboard the helicopter were US Army Special Operations personnel. The United States has deployed 2 aircraft carriers, the Ford and the Iron Tower, along with supporting ships and dozens of aircraft to the eastern Mediterranean. President Joe Biden and US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin expressed condolences in a statement. And US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen met with financial chiefs from Indonesia, Mexico and Australia ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC leaders meeting in San Francisco. She emphasized a wish for continuous international cooperation. The APEC meeting will take place from November 15 to 17th, and it is scheduled to include a meeting between US Vice President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping.
This is a particularly exciting time for bilateral relations between the United States and Indonesia, as the timing of our ministerial coincides with President Jokowi's visit to Washington, marking a new phase of bilateral cooperation and friendship between the world's second and third largest democracies. We continue to strengthen bilateral relations between our nations. This meeting follows a very successful state visit by Prime Minister Albanese last month, in which he and President Biden helped inaugurate a new era of US-Australia strategic cooperation.
And the stage is set in San Francisco for the biggest international event that the city has hosted since 1945. Leaders from across the Asia-Pacific are flying in for the APEC summit that President Joe Biden will host this week. India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is also taking part in this event. DD India's Simon Marks is at the summit site in San Francisco.
Minister Piyush Goyal will represent Prime Minister Narendra Modi at this year's APEC summit here in San Francisco, the first APEC summit to be held on American soil since 2011. The agenda is absolutely vast, and over the course of the last few hours here in San Francisco, fresh pressure has been applied on both President Biden, the host of the summit, and Chinese President Xi Jinping ahead of their meeting face-to-face on the sidelines of this event on Wednesday. It took fully a year for Washington and Beijing to negotiate even the possibility of a face-to-face meeting between the two men. So tense has the bilateral relationship between Washington and Beijing been, especially in the months since the United States shot down that Chinese surveillance balloon flying in American airspace. On Wednesday, it comes at a time, of course, when President Biden will be traveling to this APEC summit to reinforce the notion that the United States sees itself as a Pacific power and is absolutely determined to deepen its partnership with its partners across the Indo-Pacific in a bid to try and counter China's expansionist tendencies. Other issues where there may be difficulties making headway include the crisis underway in the Gaza Strip. There is disagreement among many of the countries attending this APEC summit over precisely who is to blame for the intensifying crisis in the Middle East. Many of APEC's 21 member states want the United States to liberalize its approach to trade, to allow market access, even perhaps to agree to begin the negotiation of free trade agreements. The Biden administration does not appear to be coming to this summit with that kind of an approach in mind. 78 years ago has San Francisco seen an international gathering like this. The city has cleaned up in the immediate vicinity around the Moscone Center where this summit is being held. Big stakes here, a big event. And of course, enormous outcomes banking on it that will come out of this conference for nations throughout the Indo-Pacific. Simon Marks for DD India at the APEC summit in San Francisco.
And Indonesia's President Joko Widodo is set to hold a bilateral meeting with US President Joe Biden later on Monday. The talks will aim to deepen trade ties between the two nations, but issues including China and the situation in Gaza will also feature prominently. US correspondent reports from New York.
According to a statement from the White House, Joe Biden and Joko Widodo's discussions will focus on deepening the partnership between the world's second and third largest democracies. The White House adds a little bit more information on what the two leaders will be discussing, including cooperation on clean energy transitions, advancing economic prosperity, and ensuring a free and open Indo-Pacific. We can also expect the issue of China to dominate much of the conversations, likely, according to analysts here from Indonesia's leader, calling for the US and China to cool tensions. This comes just a few days before President Joe Biden is expected to meet his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping in San Francisco in just a few days' time. Economics will likely feature very prominently in this bilateral meeting between the leaders of the US and Indonesia. Some analysts saying we might expect a limited free trade agreement. Much of the focus will be on market access to critical minerals, especially nickel, produced by Indonesia, that could play a pivotal role when it comes to easing US supply chain issues as it looks to ramp up the production of electric vehicles in the future. The issue of Gaza will likely also be in focus and will likely be discussed. Joko Widodo has described the humanitarian situation in Gaza as unacceptable. Joe Biden, the US president, has been pushing for more humanitarian pauses to see a more humanitarian access into the Palestinian enclave. But, of course, the United States has historically been a staunch ally of Israel. William Denslow in New York reporting for DD India.
And as the US Navy surveillance plane flew in circles, keeping a close watch, dozens of Chinese Coast Guard and accompanying ships chased and encircled Philippine vessels in the latest confrontation in one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the South China Sea. At the height of Friday's 4-hour face-off in the high seas, a Chinese Coast Guard ship blasted a water cannon towards a Philippine motorboat, delivering food and other supplies to Filipino forces on a marooned, rusting warship that serves as the country's fragile territorial outpost at Second Thomas Shoal. And India correspondent Patrick Falk reports from Singapore about one of the most dangerous encounters amid all the recent confrontations we've seen between China and Philippines in the South China Sea.
At least 38 Chinese vessels in the vicinity of the Second Thomas Shoal, including a Chinese naval fast assault craft. And we're told that the Chinese carried out a series of maneuvers and blockades, essentially trying to hamper a Philippine resupply mission to the BRP Sierra Madre, which, as we've said before, is basically a crumbling old vessel stationed at the Second Thomas Shoal, really there to assert the Philippines' sovereignty. And the face-off according to reports, went on for about 4 hours, at the height of which, as you said, the Chinese side fired a water cannon at a Philippine motorboat. That in itself is dangerous, but also the fact that the Sierra Madre is an actively commissioned warship means that any sort of attack on it would be considered an act of war. All of this while, as you mentioned earlier, there was a US Navy surveillance plane that was monitoring the entire confrontation from above. And the real concern here is this is the sort of thing where any misstep could result in very serious implications of the nature that would involve drawing the US and the China together into potentially a situation where there might be conflict between the two sides. And it's got to be said as well that in recent weeks, the Philippines and China seem to have been upping the ante. The Philippines have been carrying international media on some of its naval vessels to try and demonstrate to the world some of the acts of aggression by the Chinese side. But despite all of this, Beijing doesn't seem to be deterred for the time being.
Okay, still to come on DD India News Hour. North Korea lashes out at UN command over meeting in Seoul. King Charles and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak leads Britain in remembering the country's war dead. An 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show to start today.
Welcome to a happy place. To nature's warm embrace. Witness the power of faith, fruits of hard work, and protectors of Mother Earth. Unique in every way. Discover something new every day. A small state with big ambitions. And a bigger heart. Mizoram welcomes to love, laughter, and celebrations.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. And moving on, the defense ministers of the United States and South Korea convened for security talks. The agenda included working together to address North Korea's threats, including through executing extended deterrence strategy. The U.S. strategy of using strategic military assets, including nuclear forces, to defend its allies has become more significant as North Korea advances with its missile and nuclear programs. South Korea's defense minister Shin Wok-sik and Lloyd Austin attended the annual security consultative meeting to review the alliance's future amidst the Israel-Hamas war and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And North Korea called for the United Nations command to be dissolved, calling it an illegal war organization over a meeting which is scheduled to take place between UNC member states in South Korea later this week. The US-led UNC is a multinational military force and oversees affairs in the heavily fortified demilitarized zone between the two Koreas, which remain technically at war. And for more, we have Patrick Falk from Singapore with us. Well, Patrick, North Korea has called the UN command an illegal war organization. What's its justification for the reference?
Well, there really doesn't appear to be any clear justification for this labeling, other than the fact that the US and its allies are coming together and stepping up pressure on Pyongyang over its nuclear and ballistic missile activities. It comes, as you say, after the defense ministers of the US, Japan and South Korea came together on Sunday to discuss the North Korean threat and also to devise a new deterrence strategy, the tailored defense strategy to try and deal with North Korean provocations. This will, as you mentioned, involve the deployment of strategic assets, including US nuclear forces. And, you know, it is really to deal with North Korea's ongoing and rapidly advancing nuclear and missiles program. And all three sides said that this was necessary to deal with what wasn't adequately being dealt with previously under the former strategy. It also comes just before, as you say, the UN command, which is led by the US and is essentially a multinational military, is coming together on Seoul again to discuss the North Korean threat and to call on Pyongyang to stop its activities and also to call on Pyongyang to abide by UN resolutions. It's not clear what North Korea's comments, what sort of effect it will have, but it certainly gives the impression that North Korea won't be backing down easily.
Right. Also, the US, South Korea and Japan will also begin sharing real-time data on North Korean missiles from December. What's the significance of that?
Yeah, well, this is really about the three countries better coordinating themselves under what the Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara called a severe security environment. It's also designed to demonstrate a readiness posture, as South Korea put it, to deal with any North Korean provocations, including a Hamas-style attack. Now, the sharing of the data was something that was discussed as far back in August, and the three sides said this is really, as I say, a small adjustment to better coordinate efforts against North Korea. But, you know, as I mentioned previously as well, this is really about the three countries coming together to deal with an expanding nuclear and missile threat from Pyongyang.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that information from there. And moving on, amid the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict, the Israel Defense Forces have said that their troops delivered 300 liters of fuel to the Shifa hospital for urgent medical purposes. Also, a video released by the Israeli military on Sunday showed soldiers moving towards a building while holding gallon containers, saying they had offered fuel to the Shifa hospital in the Gaza Strip. Earlier, the Israeli military said it will help evacuate babies trapped at the Al-Shifa hospital. And King Charles and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak led Britain in remembering the country's war dead, seeking to unify communities a day after a large march was marked by skirmishes between far-right counter-protesters and the police. King Charles led thousands of veterans, senior politicians and members of the public in a service commemorating British military service people who died in the world wars. They held a 2-minute silence and then laid wreaths to honour those killed in war. On November 11th, the annual Armistice Day commemoration saw more than 300,000 demonstrators march through central London, with police arresting more than 120 people as they sought to stop far-right counter-protesters from ambushing the main rally. And the 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show, titled The Future of the Aerospace Industry, is set to take place on November 13th at Dubai World Central. The event, which is the largest to date, will host over 1,400 exhibitors from 95 countries. The event will feature over 180 commercial aircraft, including Airbus A320P2F, A321neo, A330neo, A400M, Atlas CMK-1H225. and C295. The event will also feature the latest electrical vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, drones and UAVs. The event will also feature the UAE Space Agency's latest initiatives and advancements in sustainable aviation fuel and cleaner aviation technology. Also, the Indian Air Force is set to participate in the Dubai Air Show from November 13 to 17, 2023. The IAF contingent, including the light combat aircraft Tejas and the advanced light helicopter Dhruv, will showcase their static and aerial displays. The IAF will return for their second appearance after the 2021 edition and will perform at the opening ceremony on November 13th. The participation also highlights India's aviation progress, featuring indigenous platforms like the Tejas and Dhruv. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. People of 7 villages in the Erode district of South Indian state of Tamil Nadu celebrated Diwali without bursting firecrackers to protect the avian population at the nearby bird sanctuary located just 10 kilometers from the region. During the breeding season from October to January, the sanctuary becomes a haven for thousands of local and migratory birds that arrive to lay and hatch their eggs. Udaipur city in Indian state of Rajasthan brightens up on Diwali as buildings and streets get illuminated with colourful lights. People also decorated their homes and office with colourful lights to mark the celebrations of the Festival of Light. Chief of Naval Staff of India, Admiral R. Hari Kumar, visited forward deployed Marcos and BSF troops, acknowledging their presence and sustained operations in vital locations. He appreciated their commitment and professionalism. He also greeted them on the festive occasion of Diwali. And India will host the 33rd Conference of World Organization for Animal Health Regional Commission for Asia and Pacific in New Delhi on 13th of November. The delegates from 36 member countries, including India, will participate in the conference. In India, the Festival of Lights, Diwali, was celebrated across with traditional fervour and gaiety. The festival, which marks the victory of good over evil, was celebrated by lighting up houses, temples and other public places. People also worshipped goddess Lakshmi on the occasion. Moving on, the Federation of Indian Associations of the Tri-State Area of New York, New Jersey and Connecticut, the leading umbrella community organization in the US, partnering with the Empire State Building, marked the Festival of Diwali by illuminating the iconic Manhattan building in orange color. And New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Deputy Commissioner of International Affairs Dilip Chauhan celebrated Diwali with people of the Hindu community at the Bhakti Center, the oldest Hindu temple in Manhattan. More than 1,500 people gathered to celebrate the Festival of Lights at the temple.
Diwali, beautiful experience here, and I welcome anyone, not only during Diwali, but any time of the year, come here and renew your energy. It's so important to spread our light throughout the entire globe, not only on Diwali, but all the time.
Also, Diwali, the Festival of Lights, was celebrated across the world. The city of Dubai transformed into a vibrant sea of colors as Diwali lit up the skies of Dubai, bringing an Indian vibe to the city's skyline. The air was filled with excitement as the night sky became a canvas for dazzling fireworks, adding an extra layer of magic to the celebrations. Families gathered at parks and public spaces as the explosive displays painted intricate patterns against the backdrop of the city's iconic structures. The crackling of fireworks intertwined with the beats of traditional drums, creating a symphony that echoed the unity of diverse cultures coming together. Well, Kali Puja or Shama Puja, the second largest festival after Durga Puja at the Bengali Hindu community, was celebrated across Bangladesh on Sunday. In this festival, members of Hindu community light earthen lamps at their houses, temples and crematoriums in memory of their departed elderly persons. Kali Puja is also known as Deepavali or Diwali. In Dhaka, the Shama Puja was organized at Dhakeshwari National Temple, Siddheshwari Kali Temple, Ramna Kali Mandir and other temples amid due religious fervor and enthusiasm. And still to come on DD India News Hour. And a construction tunnel collapses in Uttarakhand. Nearly 1 million people in Somalia are facing the severe impacts of heavy rains and flooding. And India's capital city of New Delhi is set to host biggest ever international trade fair at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex.
Swagato to West Bengal, India's cultural epicenter. West Bengal invites you to share its richness, to be united as one family with one shared vision of building a better tomorrow.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, on a visit to the United Kingdom, says India has leadership, vision and good governance. 18th edition of the Dubai Air Show, titled The Future of the Aerospace Industry, set to take place today. Indian Air Force contingent consisting of light combat aircraft, Tejas and advanced light helicopter Dhruv to take part in this air show. India's middle order thrilled spectators at Bengaluru against the Netherlands. Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul hit centuries. And India's capital city of New Delhi is all set to host the biggest ever international trade fair at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex. Thousands of participants from several countries are likely to visit Delhi for the mega event. DD India correspondent Debyendu Mundal reports for more.
After the successful completion of the G20 summit in September this year, Delhi is once again gearing up to host another mega event at the newly redeveloped Pragati Maidan complex. This time, Delhi is all set to host the biggest ever 42nd edition of the India International Trade Fair. The theme, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, United by Trade. Countries from across the world will gather at the national capital to participate at this mega international event. Women entrepreneurs from the SAARC countries will be a key focus of this year's trade fair. SAARC countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan, Maldives, Nepal and Bhutan will also set up pavilions to showcase their best products and businesses to the world. Other countries like Turkey, Qatar, Bahrain will also be major participants at the International Trade Fair. The mega event is scheduled to be held between the 14th and the 27th of November this year. More than 1 million people are expected to visit this international trade fair this year. Spread over 1 lakh square meters, the 14 halls of the swanky Pragati Maidan complex will showcase businesses and innovations from across the world. At home, states like Bihar, Jharkhand and Kerala will be the partner states for this edition of the International Trade Fair, while states like Uttar Pradesh, Delhi, Jammu and Kashmir and Maharashtra will be the focus states. Not only this, visitors and participants will also have an experience of cuisines from across 30 states of India at the mega open food zone at the trade fair. This mega 13-day event in the national capital has already started creating a buzz amongst the business communities from across the world. And the event will further enhance India's image at the world stage. Debyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
Well, the third week-long round of negotiations to hammer out a global plastics treaty kicked off today in Nairobi, Kenya, after a preparatory meeting on Saturday as the United Nations Environment Programme seeks to develop a legally binding instrument regulating plastic pollution worldwide. Officials are bracing for tough negotiations over whether to limit the amount of plastic being produced or just to focus on the management of waste. Among the issues to be discussed in the session from today to November 19th are the principles and scope of the instrument, institutional arrangements and possible final provisions. Moving on, climate activist Greta Thunberg was interrupted while speaking at a protest in Amsterdam as a protester told her that he was there for a climate demonstration, not a political view. Tens of thousands of protesters marched demanding immediate action against climate change 10 days before the country holds a general election. Around 70,000 people joined the march, including former EU climate chief Frans Timmermans, who will lead the combined Labour and Green parties at the upcoming election. Organisers said the turnout was the largest ever at a climate protest in the Netherlands. And people in parts of the African continent are facing severe hardships and frequent displacement as some regions are under the grip of erratic weather conditions, alternating between floods and drought.
Nearly 1 million people in Somalia are facing severe impacts of heavy rains and flooding as the El Nino global weather phenomena wreaks havoc in East Africa. The flooding disaster took place just a few months after the Horn of Africa country endured a historic drought. Displaced individuals living in camps for displaced people due to recent flash floods earlier this year are facing fresh hardships. Amina Ado, a local resident, was displaced by flash floods twice this year from her home in an agricultural town in central Somalia. Ado recounted the hardships faced by those affected, emphasizing the urgent need for assistance from the Somali government and its partners.
I was living in an IDP camp in Beledweyne when flood waters swept away our shelters. We relocated to higher ground here. As you can see, we don't have proper shelter, no food and even water as well as latrines. We call upon the Somali government and its partners to provide urgent assistance.
Another victim, Hussein Ali, said that the weather is very changeable with temperature extremes and there are constant struggles with public health and sanitation.
We have been here for about 10 days with no water and latrines. It's very hot during the day and very cold and rainy during the night, so we request help from non-governmental organizations.
Despite Somali government's efforts, several towns remain submerged and the prospects of rain subsiding in the near future appears dim. Nevertheless, humanitarian initiatives persist despite frustrating logistical hurdles. Somalia isn't the only country in the region being affected by the global weather phenomena known as El Nino. Kenya and Ethiopia have also reported deaths and displacements due to heavy rainfall and flooding. The UN says it will provide $25 million to jumpstart life-saving assistance for those affected. Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
And Mount Etna, Italy, erupted, sending lava and ash high above the Mediterranean island of Sicily. According to Italy's ANSA news agency, a large plume of ash steam surged into the sky above Sicily from the southeast crater of Europe's tallest and most active volcano. Despite the volcano's activity and ash fall, it said the nearby Catania airport remained open for the time being. And a whirlwind of smoke and ashes engulfed the East Santa Cruz area of Bolivia. Twisters caused by fire and smoke firewalls emerge when turbulent conditions create wind vortexes that pull in burning debris. Skyward flames ravaged swaths of Noel Kempf National Park on Saturday, and Takana indigenous people rushed to evacuate the Buena Vista community as the blaze reached their houses. Santa Cruz officials requested a helicopter and the army to help in fighting the fires. Well, a portion of a tunnel under construction between Silkyara and Dandalgaon on Brahmkamal Yamunotri Highway in Uttarkashi district in India's Uttarakhand collapsed, trapping around 40 workers. Relief and rescue operations are underway to free them. The incident took place around 4 a.m. local time on Sunday when a 150-meter-long portion of the 4.5-kilometer-long tunnel collapsed. Oxygen is being pumped into the tunnel through a water pipe to ensure the workers' safety. And Sri Lanka's President Ranil Wickremesinghe, as Finance Minister, will present the budget for 2024 today. The budget will be crucial for the island nation as the public expectations revolved around reduced taxes, increase in wages and lower prices while keeping the budget deficit under check. The President has said the budget will be full of surprises and a section of the island hope for populist reforms, considering that this is a pre-election budget. At the same time, the State Minister of Finance, Ranjit Siambabalapetia, has promised higher wages to public servants and relief measures for the poor. The measures under taxes are also being expected to ease. Well, Dr. Ahmed Moeen Farooqi joins us live from Colombo for more on the budget. Well, Dr. Ahmed, for the first time ever, Sri Lanka's budget expenditure will exceed 6.5 trillion rupees, an increase of almost 12% when compared with the previous year, considering the country has just come out of a huge economic crisis.
Lipakshi, yes, this is a very crucial budget. Expenditures set to increase. Revenues are also being anticipated that they would increase. However, Sri Lanka, as we are aware, that had gone through the economic crisis over the last 1.5 years, during which India had provided an unprecedented support of $4 billion worth of humanitarian assistance. Thereafter, India had even provided the financing assurances so that Sri Lanka could secure the IMF bailout plan. Now, under the IMF bailout plan, during the first review, which was held in September this year, the IMF's team had opined that the revenue of the government was not on the same expectations as they had expected earlier this year. So that's one concern which Sri Lankan government would be trying to look at. The revenues being less than the anticipated will make them rework on measures to widen the tax net as well as the tax ambit as well. There have been efforts that have been made through increase of personal income tax last year itself through the amendment of the Revenue Act, where the highest slab was brought to 36%. However, this year we also saw VAT that was increased from 15 to 18%. There have been proposals for bringing in inheritance tax, property tax reforms, as well as various other taxes, including wealth tax. But the concern would be that there is, on one hand, a concern with regard to adhering to the IMF targets, right, so that secure the second tranche, while at the same time, populist measures are also being anticipated, considering that this is a pre-election year. Lepakshi.
Yes, so I was about to ask that this is a pre-election budget, and the president has said that the budget will be full of surprises. Also, there are a lot of public expectations for the poor, for the general public. What is expected there?
You see, lots of public sector employees have been hoping to get certain incentives as well as bump in their salaries. That has been one which the State Minister, Siambalapitiya, had promised that there would be something for the public servants in this budget. On the other hand, the quality of life and the disposable income which people have, that is something which people would be looking at so that it improves, and their quality of life could also improve with regard to the kind of life they're leading as of now. Sri Lanka had gone through its worst economic crisis last year, in which we saw inflation to the tune of 73% of what had been there 1 year back. So from there, the inflation has come down and has come to 0% as of now. Despite that, there will be concerns with regard to how these measures and benefits would be transferred to the poorest of the poor in Sri Lanka.
All right. Also, Ahmed, till when is the budget expected today?
Today, the president would start his presentation at 12 midday today, and thereafter there will be discussions. There will be 3 rounds of discussions, which will pan out till middle of December. So thereafter, the standard practice as per the Parliament's procedure, the voting and thereabouts will happen. So as of now, that's how it stands. Lepakshi.
All right. Thank you so much for that update from there, Ahmed. Thank you. And moving on, a thick layer of smog engulfed the capital of India, Delhi, after people burst crackers on Diwali night, leading to heavy pollution all across the city. The city is already battling with its deteriorating air quality because of farm fires in the surrounding region. The visibility also reduced to few meters. The city's air quality is in poor category, with the AQI standing at 248 on Monday morning. It is now very likely that the city will once again witness a rise in pollution levels, making it difficult for the people inside the city to breathe. And moving on, Icelandic authorities are preparing for a volcanic eruption in the southwest of the island due to a series of earthquakes and evidence of magma spreading underground. The Icelandic Meteorological Office warns of a considerable risk due to the size and rate of the underground magma intrusion. The Civil Protection Agency has ordered the evacuation of Grindavik, a fishing town with around 3,000 residents. And still to come on DD India News Now. India lights up Bengaluru on Diwali by a mammoth victory yesterday against Netherlands in ICC World Cup. Kabaddi witnesses unprecedented growth in Tanzania. We tell you how.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran, and moving on, tens of thousands of people protested across Spain against acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's plans to offer amnesty to Catalan separatists in a bid to win enough support for another term in office. The government secured a deal with Catalan separatist party Hunts, which includes passing a contentious law granting amnesty to those convicted over Catalonia's attempt to secede from Spain in 2017. Sanchez's conservative opponents have accused him of putting the rule of law on the line for his own political gain. The People's Party had called for protest in the capital of all Spain's regions. In Madrid, some 80,000 people turned out. And Argentine presidential candidates debated in a heated TV face-off ahead of the November 19th election. The election to decide the next president of Argentina pits Javier Milei against the candidate for pessimist Sergio Massa. The presidential hopefuls traded accusations and questioned each other, showcasing their opposite proposals and viewpoints on topics that included the economy, foreign affairs, security and human rights. Most of the latest polls show Milei with a slight edge over Massa. The winner will take office on December 10th. Analysts say by then inflation could hit 180%. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Chilean breast cancer survivors participated in a traditional Chinese dragon boat race for rehab and community ties. Over 130 women participated in 200-meter regattas at Santiago's Karen Lake Park. The race, organized by Fortail Sinos Chile, with Chinese embassy support, aimed to promote upper limb motion and prevent lymphedema, a common side effect of breast cancer. Dragon boat racing is a popular tradition in Asia. The Red Bull Crazy Cars competition returned to Argentina for the first time in 10 years with over 30,000 spectators and 30 teams. The event featured over 30 carts, including wine barrels, toilets and Argentine stew. The winner, a vintage ambulance cart, completed the circuit in less than a minute. A makeshift camp in the eastern Santiago Desert in the United States is witnessing an influx of migrants crossing into the U.S. from Mexico. The migrants crossing through the border wall in Jacumba Hot Springs, California, were processed by Border Patrol officials. More than 204,000 migrants have been picked up by border officials in the 11 months through August. And an albino puma has become the center of attraction at the Thomas Bell Zoo in Nicaragua's Juigalcapa in Central America. The almost 4-month-old puma has been named Itzi. In Mayan, it means gift from God. And time now for some sports news. In cricket, India defeated Netherlands at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru in the last league match. Chasing a mammoth 411-run target, the Dutch batsmen could only manage to reach 250 runs in 47.5 overs. For Netherlands, Teja Nidamanuru scored 54 runs, while Simbrand Engelbrecht scored 45 runs. Earlier, opting to bat first, India were off to a great start with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill smashing half centuries. Kohli followed with a 51-run knock. Also, Shreyas Iyer and KL Rahul then stitched a 208-run partnership for the fourth wicket, taking the men in blue to 410 runs for the loss of 4 wickets, which is the highest total in this edition of World Cup. Shreyas Iyer smashed an unbeaten 128, while KL Rahul scored 102. For Netherlands, Bas de Leede took 2 wickets. Well, a decade ago, Kabaddi was virtually unknown in Tanzania, but the sport is now enjoying unprecedented growth in the country. Established with the support of the Indian embassy there, the nation's Kabaddi Association is working hard to grow the sport. DD India's Isaac Lucando has more on the sport's development.
A weekly practice session for members of the Buffalo Kabaddi Club in Dar es Salaam. The club is one of several in the country that are spearheading the growth of the game of Kabaddi.
In 2013, when we started, the game's reception was very poor. We mostly used players from other sports, since I also teach assorted games. But as days go on, the situation has improved. We now have a large program. All the national team players, for example, come from our school program.
In 2021, Tanzania hosted the Africa Kabaddi Championship tournament for the first time, where the national team were runners-up behind winners Egypt. Zuena Hassan, who took part in the women's team, says the main challenge to the game's growth is competition from mainstream sports.
Kabaddi is not like football. Football has a lot of aspects to it, while Kabaddi is not as complicated. With sponsors investing and good players like us representing the country, we can go far through Kabaddi.
The growth of Kabaddi in Tanzania lends itself to support from the Indian government, which now includes the services of 2 coaches who are currently helping to train players. So far, 2 players from Tanzania have already featured in the Indo-International Premier Kabaddi League. Compared to other games, Kabaddi doesn't require a lot of resources to play. For instance, in terms of space, a 10 by 13 meter ground suffices, which means it can be played almost anywhere. This and a host of other factors have convinced the leadership of the Tanzanian Kabaddi Association that the game could scale up its presence in the country. Coaches from India say apart from a language barrier, they seem to be making progress in the country.
We are going for training for coaches and officials, as well as we are doing training for players also. So in all aspects we are trying to do the work so that in the future they can come up as a good team.
The Tanzanian Kabaddi Association has lofty dreams of becoming African champions and possibly dominating at the global competition in India next year. But for now, the country's players continue to train, hoping that one day Kabaddi will take a seat among mainstream sports in Tanzania. Isaac Lukando in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
Well, the final season of Netflix's The Crown premiered in Los Angeles on November 12th, following the events leading up to Princess Diana's death in 1997. Netflix's series starring Elizabeth Debicki as Diana has returned with star-studded premieres. The series has seen numerous actors portraying the royal family. Claire Foy and Matt Smith is portrayed by various actors. Showrunner Peter Morgan expressed his enjoyment in writing about the 1950s.
Die down anytime soon.
The press are on our tails constantly. All one wants is for that girl to find peace.
Mommy, you okay?
I'm okay.
Well, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thank you for watching DD India.